Hello everybody, welcome to my review of Bulbasaur's Evolution set made by Mega. This set comes with 622 pieces and is recommended for ages 8 and up. And it features the Pokemon Bulbasaur and his evolutions Ivysaur and Venusaur. We're going to start off by taking a look at Bulbasaur, who is the first Pokemon in this evolutionary line. Bulbasaur comes with this really cute face print of him smiling with his eyes closed. And one of the things that I really like about the Pokemon that Mega makes is they all have printing for detail. And I think they did a really good job with the printing on Bulbasaur. As you can see, when we spin him around, he's got various spots, which is pretty accurate to the Pokemon's core design. I also really like the design of the bulb on his back. It's a relatively simple build, as it should be for a Pokemon of this size. And I think it's pretty hit or miss with how Mega designs their Pokemon, but I do really like the look of Bulbasaur overall. As far as articulation goes, Bulbasaur does have a little bit of articulation in his ears. This is something Mega does quite often with their Pokemon builds, and I like it because it gives the Pokemon a little bit more expressiveness. All 4 of Bulbasaur's legs are on ball joints, which offers for a good variety of range of motion in all 4 of his extremities. With all 4 of his legs out like they are, it kind of makes it look like he's laying down, which I think is a really cute pose. With his legs being on ball joints, you can also move his legs forward and backwards, which can offer for a wide variety of poses and creative play for kids. And again, I just really like the look and design of Bulbasaur here. I think Mega did a fantastic job with him. The other cool thing about Bulbasaur is he is not exclusive to this set by any means. You can buy Bulbasaur in one of these single Pokeball packs that Mega makes for about $8 to $10. The only difference is he may come with a different facial expression. I believe I've seen Bulbasaur with his eyes open and a winking expression. But again, I think this is a fantastic brick-built Pokemon. Next up, we're going to be taking a look at the middle evolution, which is Ivysaur, which is probably my least favorite out of the 3 Pokemon that come in this set. One of the things I don't like about Ivysaur is if we look at the top of his head right here, it starts off round and then just kind of falls off into this blocky form. I don't know, I just feel like it doesn't flow together really well and just looks a little awkward. The leaves and the bulb on Ivysaur's back are also way too small. Especially the bulb, it is supposed to be much larger. On a positive note, I do like the faceplate Mega has used and the overall printing on Ivysaur as a whole, but I do feel like there were a couple missed opportunities to make this Pokemon better. Ivysaur does come with a little bit more articulation than Bulbasaur. His head is able to be rotated side to side, which is something Bulbasaur could not do, but all 4 of Ivysaur's extremities are on ball joints, which allows for the same articulation as Bulbasaur, which isn't necessarily a bad thing because I thought the posability on Bulbasaur was pretty good for what it was. One of the things that I do find interesting is Ivysaur's back legs are a lot shorter than his front legs. I assume Mega did this to kind of give Ivysaur a little bit of an arch, but I honestly think the Pokemon would have looked pretty good if all 4 of his legs were shorter like the back. I don't know, let me know what you think of that in the comments below. The bulb and leaves on Ivysaur's back can be rotated around, which is a cool feature, but as you can see, if they're not raised high enough, it'll get stuck on his ears. All 4 of his leaves can be moved up and down, which I think is a pretty cool play feature for kids. And overall, I don't think this is necessarily a bad build for a Pokemon, but with a few changes, I think it could have been much better. And if you're enjoying this review so far, maybe consider giving the video a like and subscribing to my channel for more future brick built reviews. Now we're on to the final evolution of this set, which is Venusaur. And I gotta say, this is a really impressive build, and it uses up most of the pieces in this set. We're going to start by taking a look at the face of Venusaur, which I actually think is really well done, and it's got some great printing detail. And I think is very accurate and well built to fit the Pokemon's design. Venusaur also comes with a little bit of articulation in the head. It's able to be rotated side to side, just like Ivysaur. Venusaur also comes with just a little bit of articulation in the jaw. It's able to open and close slightly. I think now is a good time to mention I really do like the piece Mega used for the teeth, and the red and pink brick Mega has included inside the mouth just to give it a little bit of extra detail. As we take a look at the side of Venusaur here, you can see even more printing detail there on the leg, and I really do like the way Mega designed Venusaur here. I also appreciate how tiled off the Pokemon is. There isn't going to be too many studs showing once you have completely built the Pokemon. Venusaur also comes with a fair bit of articulation in the legs, but with how bulky the Pokemon's design is, it is a little limited in the range of motion it's able to complete. I wouldn't necessarily consider this a negative because Venusaur does have a rather bulky design, and I think the limited articulation in the legs makes it a little bit more realistic in the posability of the Pokemon. As we turn Venusaur to the side here, you can see there's also a little bit of articulation in the back legs as well. And again, while I do appreciate this articulation, I don't think you're going to be getting Venusaur into too many complicated poses just due to its bulky nature. But I do think Venusaur is relatively sturdy when it's standing up on all 4 legs, and it's going to be really difficult to knock over if you have it displayed on a table or shelf. The last thing I would like to mention in terms of articulation is Venusaur's feet are able to be rotated, which is always a nice bonus, but I don't think it was necessary for this build. Also, real quick, I wanted to show the underside of Venusaur, again just to show how tiled off the Pokemon is. The last thing I want to talk about with Venusaur is the plant found on his back. And unlike Ivysaur, I actually think this is built pretty well to scale with how it should be. And something I do like about this build is there are 2 different prints for the petals here. And Mega has you alternate these prints throughout the build process, and I think it looks really good once it's complete. I don't really have anything negative to say about Venusaur here. I think they did a fantastic job with this build. And I think that once you have the set completely built and you have all 3 of the Pokemon next to each other, they look relatively good together. I do think the Bulbasaur and Venusaur are fantastic, and while I don't dislike the Ivysaur, I do wish it was just a little bit better. Okay, now we're going to be talking about the price of this set, and it originally retails for $59.99. And this is probably primarily due to how many pieces Ivysaur uses when you're building it. I do feel like the $60 is asking a little too much for this set. If you look online, you can find it for about $38 to $40, which is better, but I feel like this set is missing a couple of things, especially when you compare it to the two other evolutionary sets that Mega has released. Both of these sets are cheaper primarily due to that piece count, but included with the 3 Pokemon is also a base with some elemental effects such as Fire for Charizard and Water for Blastoise. I just feel like with the price and extra details these sets have, they're going to be more attractable to the average consumer. And if we're going to make this a Pokemon popularity contest, I do feel like Bulbasaur's evolutionary line is not as popular as Charmander and Squirtle's. With the decreased popularity, increased price, and lack of a base for this set, it makes me wonder how this set compared to the other two behind it. The other thing I think would have been awesome for this set to be included with was some vines for Venusaur. Since Charizard and Blastoise come with fire and water in their sets respectively, I do think it would have been cool for Mega to include some type of grass feature for this set. While the set isn't perfect and is missing a couple of opportunities, I do feel like this is a relatively respectable set. If you can find this set for around that $40 price tag, I would recommend it. But if you find the set on a store shelf for $60, I would pass up on it and wait for a sale. If you've made it this far in the video, I want to thank you for watching, and again, consider subscribing to my channel for more brick built reviews. And let me know what you think of the set in the comments below. Hey everybody, and welcome to my review of the Charmander Evolution set made by Mega. This set comes with 313 pieces and is recommended for ages 7 and up. And it comes with 3 Pokemon, Charmander, Charmeleon, and Charizard. The first Pokemon we're taking a look at is Charmander, who is the first evolution in this awesome evolutionary line. For what it is, I think Charmander has a pretty decent design. I think the overall proportion of Charmander is pretty good. Mega has a history of being hit or miss with the way they size their Pokemon. But with Charmander, I think they did a relatively solid job. As we make our way back to the front of the Pokemon, you can see it also has a face print and some printing there on the legs for its nails. Charmander does come with a fair bit of articulation. The head is on a ball joint, which allows the head to be able to look left and right and be able to move up and down. You can also turn the head side to side if you wanted to make it look like the Pokemon was tilting its head. Charmander does have a little bit of articulation here in the hands. They're able to be rotated and they can be pushed inward. Charmander's legs are also able to be pushed out if you wanted to have the Pokemon standing on one foot, and if we turn them to the side here, you can see the tail is able to be rotated around. The articulation with Charmander doesn't necessarily blow me away, but it's pretty decent for the size of this Pokemon. And overall, I do like the design of Charmander here. It's a really simple build for a really simple Pokemon. If I could change one thing about this Pokemon is I wish it came with a different faceplate. I personally would have preferred to have Charmander winking or smiling instead of just this straight expression. Next up, we're going to be taking a look at Charmander's evolution. This is Charmeleon. I do like the overall design Mega decided to go with here, and I think Charmeleon's proportions are accurate to what you'd see in the video games. As we continue to spin Charmeleon around to the back here, you can see he's a much darker red than Charmander, which is accurate to the Pokemon's overall design. And Charmeleon comes with a good range of articulation. His head is on a ball joint just like Charmander, which allows his head to be rotated side to side as well as up and down, which is always a good thing. And as we make our way over to Charmeleon's arms, you can see it has 2 joints. The shoulder of Charmeleon is able to be raised up and down as well as rotated around. And thanks to that second joint, his arm can be bent at the elbow. Having that second joint in the arm can offer for a good variety of poses you can put Charmeleon in. As we make our way down to the legs, you can see it's on a single ball joint, so it's able to be rotated outward as well as back. I do wish Mega was able to incorporate double joints into Charmeleon's legs, but as we make our way around to the back towards the tail, it has 3 joints, which offers for a wide variety of posability and range of motion. And I think that's where Charmeleon shines the most, is with his posability. And if you're enjoying my review, maybe consider giving the video a like and leaving a comment of what you think of my review so far. I'm always open to feedback and critique to make my reviews as best as they can be. Finishing with Charmeleon here, I do think it has a relatively solid design. I think the overall printing quality on the Pokemon is quite good, and I really appreciate the extra articulation and posability this Pokemon has as compared to Charmander. Now we're going to be moving on to the final evolution of Charmander, Charizard. Out of the 3 Pokemon that come in this set, Charizard is by far the one that impresses me the most. Not only is the overall look and design of Charizard captured really well here, but he's got a wide variety of posability and customization options in this set. We're going to start with Charizard's articulation. His neck is able to be rotated around, and you can even close his mouth. His neck and head are on ball joints, which allows for good posability and range of motion. Making our way to his little tiny arms, they are also able to be rotated around, and they are double jointed just like Charmeleon's. And one of my favorite parts of Charizard are his wings here. The wing is made of some kind of rubber, which allows it to have that flexibility so you can actually bend the wings and move them around. I thought this was a really cool feature, and it was quite a surprise to see the wings could move. Moving on to the legs of Charizard, they're both able to be rotated back and forth. which is always great to see. And if we make our way down to the feet of Charizard, they're also on ball joints, so they can be rotated around. And last but not least, if we set Charizard down and turn him around to the side here, you can see his tail also has 3 joints just like Charmeleon's, which again allows for that wide variety of posability and range of motion. And like I said before, I'm a big fan of the articulation that Charizard has. Having all of these joints and articulation, you're able to put Charizard into some really cool poses. I've got him in kind of a forward lunged position, blowing out some fire, which I think looks really cool. This other pose, I have him standing upright and blowing out some fire. And again, I just think this is really, really cool. I am a little worried about the wings of Charizard. With them being made of rubber, I am afraid that they're eventually going to wear down and tear over time. I'm not going to be playing with Charizard as I'm a collector, but I do think it is something worth noting. Lastly, this set comes with a little display base. It's nothing overly impressive, but I do think it is a nice inclusion to this set. And it is big enough to hold all 3 of the Pokemon that are included. This base also comes with a clear rod that comes out of the top, and this allows you to take Charizard and place him on top of the rod to give the illusion of him flying. And I think this looks really good, and it's an awesome inclusion to this set. And like I said before, Charizard comes with some good customization, so if you wanted him flying and breathing fire, you have that option. This set retails for around $30, which I think is actually a pretty fair price for what you're getting. I do like the 3 Pokemon that are included, especially Charizard. I think he is darn near perfect. And if you can find this set on sale, that's even better. Thank you so much for watching my review, and if you enjoyed this video, give it a like and consider subscribing to my channel for more brick built content and reviews. Hey everybody, and welcome to my review of the Squirtle Evolution set made by Mega. This set comes with 379 pieces and is recommended for ages 8 and up. And this set includes 3 Pokemon. They are Squirtle, Wartortle, and Blastoise. We're going to start by taking a look at Squirtle, who is the first Pokemon in this evolutionary line. I like the overall color of Squirtle. I think it's a really satisfying blue to look at. And as we turn Squirtle to the side, you can see he has a printed piece there on the tip of his tail, which is a really nice detail, but as we turn Squirtle to the other side, without that printed piece, the tail can look a little weird. Squirtle's shell has some really nice printing both on the back and the stomach of the Pokemon, and I think the faceplate with the winking expression is really cute. Squirtle comes with the same articulation of Pokemon with similar builds. The head is on a ball joint, which allows it to be rotated side to side and up and down. There's also a little bit of articulation in Squirtle's hands. They could be rotated around and pushed inward. And making our way down to Squirtle's feet, they're able to be pushed outward. If we turn Squirtle to the side here, there's also a little bit of articulation in the tail. It can be moved up and down and rotated around. Squirtle's tail is rather heavy, and he's not going to be able to stand up without stud support. There's also the option of bending Squirtle's tail to help support him standing upright. I don't really care for the way this looks, and I'll be having my Squirtle displayed supported on studs. Overall, I think the Squirtle in this set is a really cute Pokemon, and even though I don't think it's perfect, I'm not real sure how I would fix those imperfections. I guess maybe in future iterations of Squirtle, Mega could design an exclusive tail mold that could attach to the back of the Pokemon. I'm not 100% sure. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Next up, we're going to be taking a look at Squirtle's evolution. This is Wartortle. Right off the bat, I want to talk about the color of Wartortle here. I don't feel like this color is very accurate to Wartortle's design. To me, Wartortle should be a shade of blue that is kind of similar to that of Squirtle. The color Mega decided to go with here kind of reminds me of what a shiny Wartortle would look like, but the shell isn't green, so that's not the case. Putting the color to the side, I do think the overall design of Wartortle is rather strong. He does have some rather good printing all around, and I don't want that to be overshadowed by the miscolor. Wartortle is a little bit more of a complicated build than Squirtle, so he's got a little bit more articulation. His head is on a ball joint, and if we turn him to the side here, his ears can move up and down. I'm not real sure what you would call these, but they can move. Wartortle has 2 joints in his arms, which can offer for some good shoulder range of motion, and his arm can bend at the elbow. As we make our way down to Wartortle's legs, they're able to be rotated outward, and since they're on ball joints, they're also able to be pushed back. And lastly, if we turn to the side here, Wartortle's tail has a little bit of articulation in it as well. And seeing how great that looks makes me wish Squirtle had his own exclusive tail mold. And if you're enjoying my review so far, maybe consider giving the video a like and subscribing to my channel for future brick built reviews. In conclusion, I do like the overall design of Wartortle here. I think Mega did a good job representing this Pokemon in brick form. However, I do wish they went with a different shade of color for Wartortle overall. Let me know what you think of Wartortle down in the comments below. And finally, we're going to be taking a look at the final evolution of Squirtle, Blastoise. Blastoise is my favorite final evolution out of the original starters in Pokemon, and it pains me to say that I am rather disappointed in this build. My issues with Blastoise doesn't have to do with his design, but the overall quality in the build, which we'll get into in a bit. We'll go ahead and start with the articulation in Blastoise. His mouth is able to close, and his head is on a ball joint, so his head can be moved side to side and moved up and down. Blastoise has a ball joint in his shoulder, which allows for his arms to be moved up and down and rotated around. Unfortunately, there's no articulation in the elbow, so his arms are in a completely fixed position. Blastoise does have some articulation in both of his legs. They're able to be rotated around, and he's also got a little bit of range of motion in both of his feet. And if we take Blastoise and turn him to the side here, you can see his tail also has a little bit of articulation. It can move up and down slightly. And if we take Blastoise and turn him all the way around, both of his back cannons are able to swivel. And overall, I do like the articulation of this figure. I do wish he had some articulation in his elbows, however. Now we're going to talk about some of the negatives. If I take Blastoise and turn him to the side here and remove his back cannons, and if I bring him up close to the camera here, you can see there's a bunch of little light brown spots all over them. I assume this is how the pieces were manufactured because they're in the exact same place on the exact same piece. However, I don't think that's necessarily a good excuse, and I don't think they should be there at all. Luckily, you're able to build the cannons to have these light brown spots facing Blastoise's back, which makes them less noticeable. However, if you get up close to the figure, you're still able to see them, which is rather disappointing. This may not be a huge deal to some people, but I do feel like it's worth mentioning. The other thing that I found rather disappointing with Blastoise here is the overall condition of the pieces that were included in my set. Right now we're taking a look at the back of Blastoise's head, and you can see there's some black smudges on some of the pieces. And I find this extremely disappointing, especially when all of these pieces are supposed to be brand new. Now we're taking a look at one of the legs of Blastoise, and you can see there's some of that black smudging here as well. Hopefully if you buy this set, this won't be an issue for you, but I did want to point it out in my personal review. Putting those two disappointing issues to the side, I do like the overall design and look of Blastoise as a whole. If we take Blastoise and turn him around here, I really like the way Mega tiled off his shell. I think it looks really great. And I do think overall Blastoise is going to look rather nice sitting next to my Charizard and Venusaur that I have reviewed on this channel as well. This set also comes with a display base that you can have Squirtle, Wartortle, and Blastoise stand on. And I do like the overall look of this base. I think it looks rather good. In the middle section of the base, there's this little piece that sticks out right here. And this is where you can attach Blastoise with the hole that is in the back of his tail. In my experience, I do feel like it is rather difficult to place Blastoise on the base without him breaking. But once you're able to get him placed onto the base, I do think it looks rather good. And I do like the waves behind Blastoise there. I do feel like it makes the set more dynamic overall. And like I said a moment ago, there is plenty of room to place Squirtle and Wartortle throughout the display base. And I do feel like once all three Pokemon are properly displayed, it looks really good overall. However, I can't help but think how much better it would look if Wartortle was just a different shade of color. The base is able to open up a little bit if you wanted to have the Pokemon displayed at a different angle. And I do feel like the display base being able to open up like this is a nice customization option for people who decide to pick this set up. You can also take parts of the display base and push it back even further. And I just think this is a really cool feature for this display stand. It gives the owner a wide variety of possibilities in displaying this set in their own personal collections. I think having the set displayed like this is going to be nice for some people, but I personally prefer it when all three of the Pokemon are facing the same direction. But I do appreciate having the option available if I ever do decide I want to display the set like this. If you own this set, let me know in the comments below how you're choosing to display it. This set retails for around $40, which I just don't think I can recommend it for that price. I think this set has a lot of cool features and possibilities, but it does have a couple of issues that I just don't think warrant that $40 price tag. But as always, let me know what you think of this set in the comments below, and be sure to subscribe to my channel for more brick built content and reviews.